Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, my guest is on a mission to teach women about the link between bras and breast cancer. Her incredible journey just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, we're taping this on a fortuitous day for my next guest because this is World Cancer Day, in which we educate people on the different ways that people can put themselves at risk. And something that's new to me, I just learned this, is that there is a link between bras and breast cancer. CJ Grace is in the studio. She is a former BBC journalist. She's a comedian. She's a self-help author. And she's my friend. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely. Well, this is a wide-ranging discussion, but let's just begin with bras and breast cancer. When did you discover this link, or had you always known it?
Well, in the research for my book about breast cancer and infidelity, it's called My Wild Ride, How to Thrive After Breast Cancer and Infidelity, I did a lot of research and read a lot of books about cancer. And the one that was the most compelling for me was one called Dressed to Kill, The Link Between Breast Cancer and Bras by Sydney Ross Singer and Sonia Grismeyer. And in it, they detail very extensive studies that show how there is a very strong link between bras and breast cancer. In fact, numerous studies show this link. And there's only one study, in fact, that shows no link, a 2014 study. But sadly, that's the only one that comes up when you Google the issue. But the link is strong, and it makes sense because where do waste products tend to stay in the body? In the fatty tissue. And where do we women have fatty tissue? In our breasts. And if you constrict the breasts, it stops the lymph flow. And the lymph is what moves everything out of those tissues and clears away waste products, clears away toxins. And so many women you speak to and they say, oh, they love taking their bra off at the end of the day because it's uncomfortable.
Sure.
And the tighter the bra is, the longer you wear it, the worse the effects.
Wow.
The studies show huge disparity between breast cancer from those people who don't wear bras and those people who do. And it is directly proportional to the amount of time the bras are worn.
We're going to pull up your website because you've got a lot going on. You're a global speaker, a best-selling author. I'm looking at all your awards. This really began because of your own health journey, and you're a 2-time breast cancer survivor. Tell us about the first time.
Well, that was in 2007, and it was a less serious form of cancer that I had then than the one that I had in 2014. I got away just with radiation, and I did some alternative stuff too, but it was mainly radiation that I did. And I thought, well, been there, done that, I'm done with cancer. But then in 2014, I got it again. I had breast cancer on the other side of the first one was on the left, the second one was on the right, and I had a micromat in the lymph nodes, which meant that I needed to have chemotherapy as well. I didn't really want to have chemotherapy. I was pretty much opposed to it, but in the end I decided that that was the best option. But I did everything. I did a lot of alternative modalities as well as the conventional treatment.
I want to talk about your first book, so Adulterer's Wife, and we've got a graphic that we're going to put on the screen so you can see the full screen of this. Tell us about this book.
Well, shortly before I got cancer, I found out that my husband was unfaithful, and in fact he had been unfaithful throughout the marriage. I just didn't realize it. And so it was a difficult time. He actually offered me a part-time wife position when I found out. I'd be perfectly happy spending half of the week with her and half the week with you. And well, I don't need to leave you. We can just do that. And I actually thought about that for quite some time because I didn't want my whole world to collapse. But then in the end, I thought, especially when I got breast cancer.
Yes.
And he was in a resort in Europe with his girlfriend, it made it seem that a part-time wife position would not really work for me. So looking at it now, I'm actually very happy that it happened. I'm so much happier on my own. I have a wonderful relationship now that's happier than I ever was. I'm happier than I ever was with him. And, I don't want to be vengeful towards him. And in fact, the mantra of the book is that the best revenge is to get past the need for it. There are so many people who do get mired in revenge and vengeance strategies rather than moving forward and actually making their life better than it was before, because sometimes these things happen for a reason to put you in a better place than you were before. And that's really what the book's all about.
And you followed that up with another bestseller, My Wild Ride. Let's go ahead and put that graphic up on the screen. Tell us about this book.
Well, that was about breast cancer and the combination of breast cancer and infidelity, because so many breast cancer books are written with people who are married and they have somebody who can support them. This was a book about how do you go through breast cancer when you are on your own, rather than having a strong support system. And what I wanted to do also was bring out the humor of the situation. I mean, it sounds ridiculous. Is there humor in cancer? Well, actually there is. There's a lot of absurd humor. And you find that it's easier to talk about unpalatable subjects when you put some humor in there. So that, for example, the final chapter of My Wild Ride is about death and dying. And that's a very important part of the equation. You have to consider that. You have to consider your own mortality and plan for that. Whether or not that actually happens, it's certainly in your head when you have cancer. The C word is a scary word to have to get your head around.
Well, you're a very popular speaker. We've got some video that we're going to put on the screen of you out speaking. And what's been the reaction when you're adding humor to cancer? Because there's this...
Well, when I'm telling people to get rid of their bras, I have these bras that I carry around, and I throw them in the air, and people love that. So maybe we might do that in a
Sure.
few minutes. But I think that people want to hear it. They want to hear about cancer, but I also want to give them an education and show them, throw away your bras. You don't need your bras, And if you are worried at work, for example, about having your nipples showing through, well, they have these wonderful little devices. They're little gel petals, and you can cover up anything that might protrude, and you can look quite professional for your business meeting. And if you're very well endowed, I can understand that sometimes you do need to wear a bra because it may be uncomfortable, or if you're doing sport, avoid underwear, wear it less rather than more, and take it off when you go home. And you will find that it will reduce your breast cancer risk. I mean, there are lots of causes of cancer out there. I can't say that this is the only cause of cancer, but the studies show pretty compellingly that there is a strong link between bras and breast cancer. And it's amazing that it is actually stronger than the link between smoking and lung cancer.
That is so surprising.
Yeah, and it's not been made that public. I don't know exactly what the reasons are, but it's sad that, as I said, the only study that doesn't show a link is the only one that shows up. And that one had no control group of women that don't wear bras. So that would be like studying the link between smoking and lung cancer and not having any non-smokers to compare to the smokers. Well,
Yes.
You need a control group. And also they looked at postmenopausal women in whom the effects are much weaker because of what's known as survivor bias. Those people who might have died off younger obviously would not be in the study.
Wow.
So the Hutchinson 2014 study is not a great study at all, and yet that's the only one that shows up. And it's the only one that shows no link. But it does seem that there is a very strong link.
And you have a button that you carry around with you.
The button that I carry around is because, I took some controversial decisions with my cancer. I was advised to have a bilateral prophylactic mastectomy, and I turned that down. And it was very much pushed by the doctors after Angelina Jolie came public with her particular story. And I do also have the BRCA gene similar to the one that she has that increases breast cancer risk. So, I didn't necessarily follow what other people would want to do. And I was besieged with all kinds of advice. The people that saw me do conventional therapy said, oh, chemo and radiation is toxic and doesn't work. And the people who saw me do alternative therapy said, oh, it's all quackery, you shouldn't be doing that. And then I had food Nazis saying, oh, if you don't give up dairy, you're going to die. And somebody else was saying, oh, the reason why you got cancer is because you're too tense and you need to relax, they shouted at me. And of course, we all know that doesn't help people relax. But, all I can say is whatever I did, I'm not dead yet. And here is the badge. I'm not dead yet. I'm also a Monty Python fan, and I did go and see Spamalot, which is where I got this wonderful badge, and it's become very appropriate to my situation.
CJ, you were telling me before the show that there's also a link between breast implants and cancer.
Yeah, the breast implants can cause cancer, but there are all kinds of systemic problems called breast implant illness that can ensue. And it's not that well known, but Nicole Deruda, for instance, has a Facebook support group, Healing Breast Implant Illness, and she also has a website, I think it's called something like healingbreastimplantillness.com, and she has 190,000 plus members on her Facebook support group. There are a lot of people with systemic problems from breast implants. And the FDA even gives a warning about that. So that, for example, Nicole herself, I believe she was sick for 6 years, bedridden, I think, for some of that, before she realized that the implants were the problem. And even Crystal Hefner, Hugh Hefner's widow, had breast implant illness. She didn't know exactly why she was feeling unwell until she finally decided that it might be the implants, and then got them removed and started to feel better. And she has spoken about that. She's spoken out about breast implant illness. And yet, I remember seeing only a couple of years back, there was a study a European study by some breast surgeons that implied that the reason why women complain about breast implant illness tends to be that they are neurotic. I couldn't believe that study. It was like a Monty Python thing. Sure. Oh, there's no real illness, you're just neurotic. But no, it's very, very real, and it needs to be taken seriously. And sadly, when I was going through my cancer, I wasn't told by the medical professionals that there were those risks from breast implants. I made my own decision not to have bilateral mastectomies. I had lumpectomies instead. And one of the reasons for that was that I knew reconstruction was going to be tough. But I didn't know the extent to which it can be really tough on people. It's actually a more serious surgery than the mastectomy. And a lot of women are choosing to go flat as a result, to not have that problem at all.
So, CJ, we only have 2 minutes left, so final thoughts. What words of encouragement would you like to share with a woman who might be struggling right now?
Well, there is always hope. People tend to think cancer is a death sentence. That is not true, especially with breast cancer. Non-metastatic early-stage breast cancer has almost 100% survival rate within the first 5 years, which is great. So I was in a slightly different category because I got it twice and I have the BRCA gene, so I'm a little bit more at risk, to say the least. But I'm still here. Do your research. I was a former BBC anal journalist type, with a researcher's background, so I did a lot of research to find what worked for me. Ask a lot of questions. If you think that you could get something different to what the doctor is suggesting, ask the doctor whether you can do that. Get second opinions. That's always worthwhile. But then on the other hand, there are other people. Some people do not want to go through that route. They just want to trust the doctor, get through the process, and get to the end of it. And people get through both routes successfully. So it's cancer can be a crapshoot, but most of us end up surviving.
Oh, well, CJ, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. We're going to end with her website so you can get in touch with her, cjauthor.com, the great CJ Grace. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
You bet. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.